Feel free to come off mute.
Doing well overall. It
Good.
is major grant submission period between now and the end of the month, really mid-August. So lots of deadlines this week. And then I'm sure you're aware of this, but the Office of Management and Budget has proposed some major rule changes to federal grant making. And
Mhm.
so we are rallying our constituency to make comments since that is open until July 13th. So it's also on the brain.
Yeah. Um, we can spend a couple minutes talking about that if you would like.
I mean we can. It's
Yeah.
it's pretty all-encompassing. I mean, I think the things that we're most concerned with are the fact that it would transition um oversight and peer review to political appointees. That would really just be furthering the administration's policies, and that just diminishes independence. And then the fact that any federal grant could be retrenched and rescinded at any time. So really a termination at will provision, which means, funding that was appropriated by even congressional discretionary spending a couple years ago could be at risk if you haven't spent it all down. So we're
Just,
uh we're a
just,
little worried about that. And that
yeah, so I
includes
just
HUD
want to check.
funding and NIH and
Does
you
everyone in
name
the call know what we're kind of talking about? Has everyone seen this? Yes. And he knows. Okay. Good. Oh my gosh, everyone's staying like so on top of things. This is so like I love this. Yeah, so it is concerning. I have a meeting with an accounting firm tomorrow, that are very plugged into SNAP employment and training. They do a lot of like federal auditing for this program and working with nonprofits, government agencies, all of that. I have a meeting with them tomorrow. Uh, so if you're interested in, if I hear anything interesting or just their perspective, I'm happy to also share that in case that is of interest to you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
anything would help. I mean, we're trying to be tactful and sensitive because there's a lot of fear out there and even letting your viewpoints be known. But these rules, if passed, I mean, just sweeping changes that, I mean,
and
it's a
implementation
laundry
is,
list of implement implications, and we're really fearful about federal to state and local grant funding because a lot of that is commingled. And
Mhm.
any organization that applies for local funding, if there's a tie to federal, they may not know that they have to abide by all these stipulations and that their grant could be terminated at will because of DEI policies that they may have or other things that are well entrenched. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And implementation would be October
stuff.
1, which is real fast,
Yeah.
especially in this universe. All right. Well, thank you for, entertaining me with this kind of,
Sorry, starting out with a downer, but
no, I'm
it's
always interested
the
in
way it
these
is.
things. So,
Yeah,
all
it
right. So we
looks it
can,
looks like there has been a few comments by legislators who are not excited about it as
yeah,
to what that'll
yeah.
result in. Who knows? And there is some commentary about because these funds are allocated by Congress, that Congress should have more oversight
Of
in this
course.
piece. Um, as long as Congress acts on that, I think that may be the case, or the courts, but that's to be seen down the road as well.
Yeah. Well, we can jump right into what we actually are here for today, although this space is meant to be fluid and discussion focused, so we can take it where it needs to go. Um, so like I said, we're here to talk about nuts and bolts, SNAP eligibility and referral. And our good friend Andrew is going to lead us today. So take it away, Andrew.
Hi, everybody. Andrew Schramm. I believe I've met everybody, but if not, I'm with Seattle Jobs Initiative. I've been with Seattle Jobs Initiative for a little over 2 years. And I'm happy to be here to talk with you all and see how many of you are here and unfortunately not on vacation. But good to see you all here. And as Sam mentioned just a second ago, this can be a very discussion-based session today. Feel free to come off mute and ask questions or add, in addition to using the chat for that as well. So today we're going to talk about SNAP eligibility, kind of get into some of the nuances of SNAP eligibility, and then also SNAP E&T eligibility. And then talk a little bit about direct referrals and those work requirements and things like that that they may face, and how you may be able to work with those. And then talk a little bit about reverse referrals and how you can really use those to your benefit, how to use those reverse referrals to your benefit, but also to benefit your participants in getting them through to SNAP E&T. And then lastly, hoping to have a little bit of a discussion about how you talk to your participants about SNAP, especially those that are hesitant, and how you bring the SNAP E&T program to them. With the structure of the program doesn't always look like it benefits them as much as it does your organization sometimes. So let's go ahead and get started talking about SNAP eligibility. So who is eligible for SNAP? That's question number one, right? So I'm sure that I hope that you're all aware, SNAP is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It's available to Americans with low incomes. Generally, that low income mark is 130% of the federal poverty line and below. Some states have some flexibility there that they use to move that number around a bit, but as with every federal program, especially where there's benefits involved, there are other factors to bring into play. So in addition to income, assets and other resources are considered. So resources that do not count include whether a person has a home and a lot, resources that people receive in supplemental security income, TANF, retirement pensions. A lot of those are not considered earned income, right? But there are other factors that come into play, such as bank account, vehicles, and other things like that too. Which some states have pretty hard limits. Some have a little bit more flexible limits on those. In addition, there are some deductions if someone has to pay child support, if they have dependents or other medical expenses. There are a lot of different resources and deductions that come into play here. So checking out that website below on eligibility can really be helpful. But checking out your own state's eligibility information is really the key, because that will really help you determine what factors in. And at all times, it's great to talk about these things, and it's great to have a consideration of what these are. But when it comes down to it, it's really the eligibility worker at the state who decides these things. So you can encourage folks to apply. You can help them get documentation together. But a lot of these factors are calculated by an eligibility worker and come out during the interview with the eligibility worker at the time of application. So encourage people to apply, but try not to tell them for sure that they are eligible until you know, right? On the next slide, there's a chart this is from the federal government. This is the chart based on household size, how they determine 130% of poverty and below. Again, this is not the only factor, but if you have participants who you're talking with and they're kind of curious about SNAP, but maybe haven't applied or don't know if they can apply, don't know if they qualify, this can be a really good image and chart to show them, to just have them consider, oh, I make about that much, or I make under that amount, where they may not consider themselves as in need of SNAP benefits. Also, each state may have, again, a little bit different variation on that chart. So check that out. Next is SNAP eligibility for non-citizens. I will preface this with Seattle Jobs Initiative is working on a project with the International Rescue Committee. They have been very helpful in helping us learn about all of the nuances with immigrants, refugees, non-citizens. If you have questions, more deep questions than what we'll talk about today, or you support folks who are green card holders or other entrants, feel free to reach out and I can connect you to IRC staff to have a little bit more information here too. So ultimately, SNAP is available to US citizens, green card holders, and Cuban Haitian entrants, although there was a recent court case decided on Cuban Haitian entrants, which may affect their ability to receive SNAP benefits. In addition, the 5-year waiting period needs to be considered for refugees, asylees, and other individuals who have come to the United States. And for non-exempt populations, the 5-year waiting period begins at the date of entry or the original status granted. So those are things to consider. Again, states may interpret these differently, and eligibility is always evolving. So again, federal rules, court decisions may impact who is eligible for these benefits. There is a website for this on the Food and Nutrition Administration website, but it has been down for quite a while. So it may be better if you're interested in this topic or have participants who are kind of have questions about this, to go to your state website or contact your state staff to figure that out. Next are SNAP work requirements, which again are not the easiest and smoothest policies to talk to your participants about. But some SNAP participants are required to work or volunteer or participate in some sort of program to maintain their SNAP eligibility. There are different categories for that. First is the general work requirement, which is for 16 to 59-year-olds. And that is a 30-hour per week participation. And noncompliance would lead to disqualification unless there's some sort of good cause or exemption. The ABOD, or able-bodied adult without dependents, requirement is for people receiving SNAP or applying for SNAP. And that includes a 20-hour participation or 80 hours per month. Non-compliance in the ABOD work requirement leads to only 3 months of eligibility in a 36-month period. Again, unless there's an exemption or a good cause reason. These can be kind of confusing. One is 30 hours, one is 20, and the ages don't line up. So really, if a person looks like they may be in one of these statuses, you can still encourage them to apply. You can still talk to them about what their options are for meeting those requirements. And if you're an E&T provider, a WIOA provider, or some other training or job readiness provider, and are able to help with some of these, meeting some of these hours, fantastic. That's a good way to talk about the program as well. As always, I feel like this should be standard on all of these slides. Different states may apply these rules differently or have different ways to meet them. So review what your state considers, or who your state considers to meet in these categories. Don't assume a participant has work requirements or doesn't have work requirements. Make sure that they apply and understand what those are. There are ways, in addition, just to keep in mind, if a person does have one of these statuses, you may be able to help them provide information on their hours to stay eligible. So those are just ways to kind of support your participants if they're subject to one of these requirements. Next slide, please. So the how. So when an individual applies or recertifies for SNAP, recertification is generally once every 6 months. Some states have it every 12 months. They're interviewed by a state eligibility worker. So that eligibility worker is required to do what's called the screening and referral process. This is federally mandated that each individual who applies or is interviewed for SNAP has the screening and referral process. Again, state to state differences. So we don't know how every state does this all the time, but for the most part, the screening indicates whether an individual needs to meet a work requirement or if they don't. If they are required to meet a work requirement, they are referred to SNAP E&T or another work program. In this case, we'll talk about SNAP E&T. That referral can be anything from giving that individual information on who is a provider in their area and how they can meet that, just information about it, or it can be anything from there through a direct referral, that content information going directly to that provider and that provider being expected to engage with that individual. So the ultimate goal, right, is for individuals to be able to maintain their eligibility if they're subject to these work requirements. So that's really the purpose of that direct referral. Again, whether it is just the information or we'll say a warm handoff to the agency that's providing services. So some direct referral procedures and expectations here. Again, every state has a little bit different procedures. But those directly referred individuals really need to get into a program or start counting up those hours pretty quickly. They only have 3 months of eligibility during non-compliance in a 36-month period, and they don't want to have to use those months waiting for a program to start. So really getting individuals to a partner and having that partner, that provider, engage with them and start working with them quickly is really essential in this case. States a lot of times have procedures, have expectations for third-party partners on how quickly that contact needs to happen, how frequently that contact needs to happen. If there's not an initial phone call answered, how many days later or how many more times does a person need to be contacted or attempted to be contacted to move through? So each state has different kind of procedures for that. Also, you as an organization may get direct referrals that are just not a fit for your organization. Maybe you only serve single mothers and you get someone who is a married father, right? That's going to be a rejection on the direct referral. But that's kind of an assessment that you can provide and provide feedback to the state on why that person was fit or not fit for your program. And again, quick turnaround of that is really helpful because if a person does not fit in your program, that clock still may be running on their first month of eligibility for SNAP. So, kind of keeping that process going can be really helpful, even if it's not your participant. Best practice here, though, is establishing a really clear tracking mechanism for these direct referrals, including that contact info, that initial referral date, any contacts that are made or attempted, including those dates, so that you can document what your process has been to the state if they ask. The result of each contact, be no answer, could be talked with the individual, they're still thinking about it, could be, set up a meeting or started enrollment, right? And then any follow-up notes. And I think that all of these pieces are also important if you have more than one staff member who is making these phone calls and receiving these referrals. Maintaining that contact and maintaining that history is really important. So again, timing is important. So ensure that any staff points of contact receive and document these referrals relatively quickly and get the process started. Ensuring that the staff is knowledgeable of ABOD policy and understands this urgency can be really important as well, and can be helpful once that individual starts getting served in the program. And then ensuring all staff have uniform procedures for contacting these referrals and reporting those results. Because in the case of an audit where the state may want to see your procedures and your process and what these contacts actually looked like, that can be really helpful in explaining your process and making sure you meet their process as well. So a little bit of discussion opportunity here. Does your state, or have you received direct referrals from your state? Not every state does, but I'm kind of curious if anyone on the call has received direct referrals from their state agency, specifically for those ABOD participants.
Hi, I just joined, so I'm catching up, but not a state agency, but we've recently been, we're doing SNAP in California, and one of the counties specifically is changing like some of, I think, how they're doing their process. And so they reached out and through the intermediary, wanted to meet with all the training providers and kind of establish a new process for how to send referrals. And I think the process seemed okay. I was curious whether or how our program specifically would end up being a fit because we enroll twice a year. It's not an ongoing process. It's a lengthy enrollment process. So they can send us people, but it could be, 4 months from now before they're enrolled in our program, if they enroll. So.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Marissa, that, I think I used to be at a college and we had classes starting when they start. So if we got a direct referral, we might not be able to serve them for a while. So Marissa, that's a really good point. And I think those are things that it's good to have communication with the state on to see what their expectations are and see, if there are other providers that you can then refer them to or refer them back to the state for a better fit. For that third question, Marissa, I don't know if you have a potential idea for if you could redesign your state's referral process, what's one improvement that you'd make, but maybe it seems like having a better idea of your schedule or what your program looks like.
Yeah, I think it was helpful that they requested specific information from each training provider so that they could kind of filter, I think, a little bit on their end where they're sending referrals. So then we're not getting, they're doing a little bit of the work to try to send us like folks that are would be eligible. I got a little nervous about I think there was a point where they wanted us to respond in a certain period of time or something. And so we needed to kind of make sure we were aligned on what the expectations were so that we could meet them. But
Sure. 100%. And it's good to know those things to provide feedback. So that's great. Anyone else receive direct referrals from their state and want to talk about how that works? Well, I'll just say for my part, similar to Marissa's concerns, making sure that the state understands what you do as a program is really important. Make sure that they understand the population you serve. Because again, a rejected referral because they don't fit your program does delay participation for that individual too. So really want this process to work up front. So it works really well. And one other thing too, I would say for the redesign, what we've heard from a lot of providers across the country, and recognizing that these eligibility workers ask a lot of questions, or required to ask a lot of questions during eligibility interviews. Adding 10 more about E&T can be a real challenge. And sometimes individuals who are applying by the end of that interview run out of steam. There's a lot of questions, right? So they feel like they have to say yes, they have to participate, they have to move forward in E&T. Just refer me anywhere because I know that I have to do this. So really giving them that option, giving them the suite of options of different providers from the state would be really helpful in a lot of cases. So again, having that communication and helping them understand what your organization does can be really helpful. So reverse referrals. This is probably what a lot of you see more often. These are participants who come to your door interested in your services first. A lot of times these are not individuals with work requirements. These are individuals who are just looking to get services through your organization. And to enroll them in E&T, if you find that they are receiving SNAP, you'll need to verify their eligibility. Even if they bring in their EBT card, even if they bring in their notice of decision, this reverse referral to your agency is still required. The reverse referral process includes, again, taking this to your state agency to verify SNAP eligibility. And oftentimes the eligibility worker will, again, complete that SNAP E&T referral. In that screening and referral process mentioned earlier by eligibility workers, if the screening results in a person not being subject to work requirements, oftentimes they don't move forward to the referral piece. Or if a head of household is applying for SNAP and they have a dependent or someone else who lives in that household, that other individual is not on the phone during that interview, so probably doesn't have that screening and referral process either, right? So that still needs to happen. That we said the checkbox still needs to get checked, right? To have that referral happen. And then if you have an individual who comes in and is interested in your services and you find that they're not receiving SNAP, but they're interested, that can also be part of the reverse referral process. They can apply and they can indicate in that initial interview that they're interested in SNAP E&T. So this is where you have a program participant, you verify their SNAP eligibility, and then that official referral comes through at the end. So some procedures and opportunity here with reverse referrals. Every state has different processes. So that's something to just kind of consider what that communication looks like, what ability you have if you have access to state systems to check that eligibility as well. But not all states have that availability of third-party partners to check their own availability, own eligibility for participants. So generally, individuals that are engaging with your programs first are reverse referrals, and they're not subject to those work requirements. So it's not quite as quick of a process need. You can kind of base it on when your programs start and follow your own processes internally. But you still need the verification by the eligibility staff and completion of that reverse referral process. The opportunity here really is, I mean, obviously, the more SNAP participants you have, the more SNAP E&T participants you can have. And the more SNAP E&T participants you have, the greater the reimbursement potential for the work you're doing. So one way to think about that, too, is your organization may not be able to take on 50 more clients because you're at capacity already. But if you can increase the proportion of SNAP clients that you serve, that increases the potential proportion of E&T participants and reimbursement as well. So some best practices in making sure that your reverse referral process works well and that you can maximize the number of E&T enrollments potential for your organization is just making sure that there's some knowledge about this program across your departments and across partners as well. Ensuring that there's a process for identifying SNAP eligibility and that's clear to individuals within your organization. Whether it's just asking the question, whether it's asking new applicants to show their EBT card or show their notice of decision, that can all be really helpful in moving forward and understanding who's eligible and not eligible. When participants are eligible and not receiving SNAP, support application, encourage them to apply, potentially show them where to go, or if you're at a desk with them, give them the keyboard, let them go ahead and do that right there on the spot. Just to note there, E&T providers are not able to be reimbursed for work in supporting SNAP application. So there needs to be kind of a line drawn there for billing purposes. Having clear procedures, having clear points of contact for processing and tracking reverse referrals, as with any process, can be really important, making sure things move forward smoothly. And then for those individuals who are hesitant to apply for SNAP or hesitant to share information, more information with the government on SNAP E&T, try to have some talking points to talk about the benefits of SNAP E&T for even other departments in your organization for referral purposes. And maybe not having a script, but at least having ways to talk about the benefits of SNAP and SNAP E&T can be really helpful, especially for those staff who are less informed on it or work with it a little bit less, to be able to encourage folks to move forward. Next slide, please. All right. So for visual learners, of which I claim for myself, this is kind of the direct and reverse referral process. So in the direct referral process, again, the point of entry is the SNAP E&T agency, where they're applying for SNAP or recertifying for SNAP. And then there's a service referral, making sure that the person makes it to services that can help them maintain their benefits and ultimately find better employment, right? That's what this is all about. The reverse referral point of entry is your organization and working directly with you on the services you're already providing. And it's more of an eligibility referral. So at that point, they're referred to the state agency for eligibility check, for referral to SNAP E&T. And again, if they haven't yet applied for SNAP, at that point, they can do that and have their interview. Any questions on the direct or reverse referral processes?
I had kind of a question. I don't
Yeah, go
know
ahead.
if this is your area of expertise, but I've been thinking about the encouraging students to apply for SNAP. In California, it looks like the percentage that are coming back as eligible or that are on SNAP, it seems low. So it feels like an opportunity. So I'm thinking, like, it sounds interesting if we might do a quick assessment of the information that we already gather from students, and like if we might target some outreach to those that show up on the for sure low income side of the spectrum to provide additional support. And then I've wondered about this idea of like, okay, is it our case managers or our social workers that we have on staff that are sitting down with the student and doing it, or maybe the student does it on their own in some cases, or it seems like there's also sometimes agencies that will kind of help facilitate this. Is that something that's common, or are there people that, can come out and sign them up for SNAP? Is it that easy, or that's the thing I don't really know much about. So
A tentative yes on all of those, I think. If you can find your local SNAP outreach provider, that is an organization contracted by the state, or maybe a county or some organization or agency contracted to provide SNAP information and encourage SNAP application. If they're not able to kind of send staff to you, they may have materials that you can distribute or help you talk about SNAP application. If they do have staff availability, they'd be able to help application, but they would likely not be able to approve people on the spot, right? It would just be able to start that. And if you're able to talk to your local county office, or they may be able to provide additional information, or at least walk you or other staff through, here's what the process looks like. So here's how you could support your clients to do the same. Curious, you had mentioned students. What type of programming do you offer?
We're a workforce training. I work with Europe United, and so we're a workforce training program. We do training period and then internship.
Okay. And that's not like credit, like college credit training, right?
No.
Okay. Yeah. So the student eligibility rules don't really apply to those folks. There are unique student eligibility rules for credit students receiving federal financial aid. So that would be outside of that, which is good. But I'm interested to hear like who your referral sources currently are. If you have other partners sending you referrals, or if you have mostly people, just showing up on your doorstep and looking for services.
Yeah, it is a mix. There's a large category are like kind of referred by a trusted person. That's sort of our biggest category. It's like alumni referring people they know, or family members of alumni referring people that they know. But we also have relationships with community-based organizations that we're getting referrals from sometimes. And so there's a variety of different types, I think, sometimes high schools. And then we do some marketing. So that's another bigger one.
So sometimes if you know of organizations that already serve people who have low incomes, those may be referral sources you can kind of cultivate more too, to see who's available, and even share information about your SNAP E&T program with them. Share just information about E&T with them, or CFET is probably what you guys call it. And that can be kind of a nice piece if you have others kind of helping to carry that message as well. Really, I think and thank you, Sam, for forwarding us to this discussion page. But I'm kind of curious how, Marissa, you and anyone else on the call identify your SNAP participants coming into your programs. Do you ask the question, is it on an application? Is it just part of case management? Or do you ask generally about benefits programs?
I think we ask more generally.
Okay. Anyone else interested in sharing? Okay. Well, interested in hearing from the group here as well. So a lot of times with individuals, they may be hesitant to apply for SNAP for any number of reasons. And so we wanted to kind of look at what those reasons tend to be, and what the reality is. Getting into an argument with somebody over whether they're right or wrong isn't necessarily the best way to move forward. But thinking about, and again, I used to be at a provider. I heard a lot of these things as well. I don't really need SNAP. You can give it to somebody else. That's great to hear that somebody has that confidence and things like that. But there's more than sufficient funding for everybody who is eligible. So, and I think a good way to talk about it with individuals of that mindset is just thinking about what is the offset if you can get $150 a month in food benefit, does that pay for your gas? Or does that offset a little bit of your utilities? So I think that's one way to kind of talk about it with folks. Secondly, non-English speakers can also apply for SNAP, so it does not require English proficiency. There are requirements that departments provide in the language of anyone who is applying. So that it can be a challenging conversation as well, but your agencies are required to provide those applications to anyone who applies. Next, receiving benefits will affect maybe an immigrant individual's ability to get a green card, or may affect their status. And SNAP is not considered part of public charge. So it is not included in considerations for immigration status. And then the last is more about E&T. And this is something that I know that I've heard and I've talked to folks about as well. The participant says, I have to do these extra things. I need to meet with my case manager. I need to sign these forms. I need to return receipts. And I was going to get that anyway. And you get the money back? What's the benefit to me? And I'm kind of curious to hear from the group if you've heard this from folks, or how you talk about your E&T program and get people excited or interested in moving forward and applying when you're discussing your program to them. Do you get pushback from people on SNAP E&T?
I think we've certainly heard a bit more of the hesitancy to provide more information to another agency for recently. I think the main thing that we talk about when sort of like selling the program, I guess, is sometimes having added benefits that we are able to kind of provide or broker. And then honestly, sometimes we talk about how this sort of pays it forward for future program participants by helping to cover the cost of the program. And I think that also does usually resonate with our students. We have kind of, we talk about lifting as you climb a lot. And so it kind of fits well with that narrative.
Absolutely. That's one of those arguments of maybe someone else did this program and now we can help you out. And this is your opportunity to help somebody else out as well. I'm always amazed at how effective that message is for people. And I love that it is effective. Anyone else want to share how they talk about their E&T program with potential participants? Whether it's working or not working? All right. Okay to have a quiet group. It's summertime. I do see real quickly, I want to follow up on something Dina added to the chat when we were talking about
My screen
SNAP
is frozen. I'm
Uh-oh.
sorry, give me one. Keep talking.
Dina added a comment here about becoming a SNAP outreach provider. There is funding involved there. So if that application becomes available with your state, you could be yourselves paid to be the carrier of the message on SNAP application. So consider that as a potential growth opportunity for your programs, for supporting individuals in your area who are at need of nutrition assistance. So that can be a really good option.
So sorry, guys. My Everything but Zoom is frozen right now. And this is recorded. I'm trying to fix it. This has never happened to me. Of all the things that do.
Cheyenne, thanks for your comment. Yeah, if you haven't launched your program yet, it's something to kind of consider. And I think this is something that a lot of programs don't think about before they start their program. But how are you going to talk about your program? Who are, if you want to increase the numbers of individuals potential in this program, where are those people going to come from? Are you going to have those referral networks? Something that has been really helpful in some areas that we've seen is working with county agency, working with state agency to send follow-up or send marketing pieces only to SNAP household addresses. So whether it says SNAP E&T on it or not, that's the population that you may see a response from. So different ideas like that, if you can work with your state or county agency on, that can be really helpful as well. And then I think, just being aware of the reverse referral versus direct referral processes. We've talked with agencies that have started as providers, didn't realize that direct referrals were going to be a part of this, and really had to figure out, oh my gosh, we need to turn around and contact these people very quickly. And so it's also good as you're starting up to talk to your state or local agency how many reverse referrals you can expect to receive, because then you can really plan for that staffing piece and understand how many people you may need to save spots for or may need to be available to work with.
I don't know what's happening. I can't. PowerPoint has deceased. I don't know. The good news is we were at the end anyway. I'm gonna stop recording.